Hello and welcome. I'm Scott Hays, and I have the privilege to be on the product marketing team at Riministreet. Now, today's topic is business application modernization. It's about roadmaps, and it's about setting a course forward to navigate your organization to meet its objectives. That's the key. And there are going to be headwinds, there are going to be obstacles, and maybe a stubborn anchor or two. But there can also be tailwinds and unforeseen opportunities in the form of new technologies and new business models that could propel you forward faster than you thought possible. Now, our choices for new technologies may seem endless, but that's because it includes optimizing what we already have. It includes evolving at the edges of your core systems, and even going so far as to transform both IT and the business in ways that make sense in selected areas that would give you competitive advantage and growth. At Riministreet, we call that the smart path. Now, recently, I got to sit down with Duncan Jones, the Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester, to discuss exactly this, a business-driven approach to the decisions that need to be made about ERP suites and about fit-for-purpose business applications. So let's get right to that discussion.
Well, hello, and thank you, Scott, for inviting me to talk about this subject, which I think is very important to a lot of companies today, and I hope it will be interesting and informative, what I have to share with you today. I'm going to be talking about the challenge of business application modernization and the decision that so many companies are facing about what to do with their older on-premise software. And I liken it to the TV show that many of you will have seen about home renovation or replacement. In many ways, the dilemma that the homeowners face in this type of TV program are similar to the dilemma that you face looking at older business applications to say, well, should we actually take the leap and replace them now? Or should we maybe just renovate them a little bit, the technology equivalent of remodeling the kitchen, and stay in the house that we know and love? So you're kind of like the picture here. Your older systems are maybe familiar to you. You've configured them how you like them. They've worked well for years, but they might look a little bit old. Maybe they're costing a lot to repair in certain places. It might actually be cheaper to move to a new house. You really have to think whether your existing property is holding you back as a business. Is it an impact to competitiveness, or is it actually something that's perfectly fine as it is? It's a stable core system that you should be just continuing to maintain as it is, with slight improvements every now and then. Now, what we see from our survey data, and this is from a survey that we did in the fourth quarter of 2021, and we asked something like 3,000 software decision makers about their plans for various business applications within their organization. And we can see from the data here that depending on the business application, it's maybe 75 to nearly 80% are planning to keep their current applications, not actually replace them with their vendor's new SaaS products, or maybe move to another vendor even. And that's true whether you're looking at finance and accounting or order management or procurement. For each of these categories, there seems to be a very high level of inertia. And of course, even the 25% who said they were considering replacing those current systems, probably half of them will choose not to when it actually comes down to it, especially now with the economic situation as it is. We've got to assume that that inertia is even higher right now. So if you're deciding to keep your current systems, you're in the majority. Really, the migration to the cloud is happening much slower than the software vendors would like to have you believe. But just because it's the majority decision doesn't mean it's the right one. So how do you resolve this dilemma? Which should you do? Well, our recommendation is to look at your business objectives, the wider business objectives that are driving your technology strategy and say which of those would actually be supported and enabled via replacing core business applications, and which of them would actually not be helped at all. In fact, an ERP replacement would be a distraction. So our survey of business priorities identified lots of different business objectives, getting almost equal votes from the respondents, 18 to 23%. Improving customer experience, developing better products, those are important to many organizations, and changing your ERP probably isn't going to help with those much, if at all. On the other hand, things like moving to digital, being more agile as a business, improving employee productivity, it's possible that older business applications aren't doing a good job for your current organization, and actually you do need to replace them. So have a look at which of these business priorities is most important to you, which are the ones that you really need to improve most urgently, and then decide, is the current software holding us back, or actually are there other issues that we can resolve without costly and expensive ERP replacement program? Now, one aspect of this decision, which in many ways makes it harder, is that the view of your business colleagues may be very different from the people in IT. And here's some data from a couple of different surveys about software priorities and decision-making processes. One of the questions we asked was, how are software choices made in your organization? And we can see here that the IT guys think that they're driving most of the decisions. 2/3 of them said mostly IT is driving software choices. Whereas their business colleagues had a very different perspective. Almost half of those said, no, we're at least equally involved in the key software choices. And when we ask them why that is, they give reasons like software's importance. Look, this software that we're using, the business applications are crucial to our success. We're not going to leave them to IT to pick what we can and cannot use. We have to meet higher customer expectations, higher user expectations. And moreover, the current applications that IT have forced us to use aren't as good as they think they are. This last question about how advanced do you think your business applications are, we found that only 31% of the business professionals thought they currently had advanced applications, whereas 51% of the IT guys thought they were actually delivering advanced software to their colleagues. I've got to believe that the business colleagues have a more accurate perspective. So let's look at this dilemma from the business user's perspective, not from the sort of internal IT perspective. Now, one danger I should point out, if we're leaning towards the love it side of the equation, there is a risk that we actually invest money in a system that's fundamentally broken. We do see a lot of clients spending a lot of money on low-code development or RPA implementations to try and make their legacy systems a little bit better. And actually what they should be doing is replacing those legacy applications with something much more modern, specialist SaaS applications designed for that purpose. So an example might be processing invoices from suppliers. We see a lot of companies wasting money trying to develop RPA routines to extract the data from the invoices and put it into the ERP system and match it up with the supporting records. You can buy software off the shelf from lots and lots of vendors that does that far better than anything you can develop yourself with RPA, with lots of additional features like fraud detection and legal verifications and things. Why waste money on doing that yourself? That leads me into the talk about the wider business application strategy that this decision is part of. Really, we believe at Forrester that the era of ERP is over. The idea that you could have an omnisuite from one vendor that does everything and gives you this omniscience, it turned out not to be the case for a number of reasons. And we don't see the next generation of business applications be just another iteration of this ERP omnisuite from a single vendor. No, we see actually that most business application strategies for enterprises today should be a much more eclectic mix of different platforms. Each of these platforms specialize in a particular domain, maybe customers or employees or suppliers, and they are using their focus and their innovation to build leading products in those areas, advanced capability using AI, which is far better than anything that the generalist OmniSuite vendors can deliver to you. Now, core to this strategy is partly the domain knowledge and focus of the specialist platforms, but it's also the ecosystem of add-ons that you get when you buy into one of these major platforms. That they all have an ecosystem of add-on vendors either developed on the same technology platform or with productized certified integrations, so that you can get even more innovation beyond what your platform vendor actually delivers to you. And then also part of this is occasionally where you need to support tasks that need to get data from multiple different places. Now it's possible to develop applications for a particular purpose using low-code platforms that know how to integrate with these leading specialist platforms, that know how to extract data about customers and operations and employees and so on, and bring them together in a way that the user can see, applying AI to suggest what the user should do about the situation, all that sort of good stuff. You no longer need to extract all the data out of one platform and force it into another to have this sort of OmniSuite database. You can leave it where it originated and just pull it together in an application as and when you need it. So modernizing the applications means moving towards this eclectic landscape of specialist platforms. And that means that you have to replace your older systems piece by piece. It's not a big bang replacement. You can actually take key processes out of the legacy ERP and replace it with a modern specialist SaaS alternative. And in order to decide how to prioritize those replacements, we encourage clients to use a reasonably formal evaluation of the current application's effectiveness. So look at how well adopted it is. Are users actually using the applications that you've given them, or are they actually rejecting those and doing things in spreadsheets and side systems, or maybe even going out and buying their own SaaS applications to do the job because your tools aren't good enough for them? How is that business capability performing from a business KPI point of view? Are you actually beating your competitors in these key areas, like the customer-facing processes, or in procurement or field service or wherever it is? How business critical is that function? If something is working now and any sort of problem would cause huge disruption to the business, then that probably should be later on the list for replacement than if it's something where if you do replace it and it doesn't quite work out perfectly, it's not that big a deal. So think about the business criticality to influence the prioritization as well. Security, of course, is a big concern. Are your legacy applications secure and robust? Are they reliable? Or are there a lot of concerns about unwanted access to them? Are they falling over all the time? Is it difficult to get support for them? In the latter case, you would want to be replacing them sooner rather than later. But if they are reliable and secure and they're delivering the business performance that you need, then why replace that part of your application landscape? So doing a sort of formal evaluation of these factors, giving each application a score and using that to drive the prioritization actually gives a defensible recommendation. It gets away from some of the emotion, some of the vested interest that you might find from people campaigning to get the shiny new tools from their favorite vendor. So in summary, how do you resolve this dilemma? Well, firstly, make sure that it's business priorities that drive the decision, not internal technology based ones, or some sort of pressure from the vested interests who are telling you you have to upgrade, trying to convince you that there are all sorts of risks about doing nothing. Just put yourself in the minds of your customers and say, what do our customers want us to do? Do they want to make targeted replacement of processes that aren't working all that well? Or do they want to take time out for a few years while we do this big, expensive and risky replacement of everything? And if you're going to choose the evolution side, the more love it but move gradually to this modern landscape of SaaS platforms, think in terms of a collection of platforms, a suite or portfolio. It's not going to be 57. It's not going to be one. It might be 3 or 4 or 6, depending on how complex an organization you are. Start moving in that direction by identifying the parts of your legacy suites that aren't really working as you need them to, and just replace those parts with specialist SaaS applications, so you're moving in the right direction. And make sure that it's your business colleagues that drive those software choices based on what they need in order to support your customers. Of course, help them make sound choices that take into account safety and security and all that sort of important criteria, but don't try to foist on them inferior software just because it comes from your preferred vendor. It's really got to be business leaders that drive the choice now. Well, I hope that's helpful guidance, and I hope that will help you resolve this difficult love it or list it dilemma. Back to you, Scott.
Well, thank you, Duncan, for your insights and for your recommendations. You know, it's clear to me that the business systems we have today and those that we're building for tomorrow are really quite different. But that doesn't necessarily mean a full-scale replacement of everything. In fact, it's probably not a single love it or list it decision. It's likely to be a little bit of both, right? Love this and list that. I think it's some exciting times ahead. I can tell you that Rimini Street is very bullish on the future of enterprise software and the power of it to unleash speed and new ideas in organizations that want to be bold with their decisions and with their business. And that's going to start with what they have now, right? And then setting a smart path to optimize, to evolve, and to transform, to maximize that future state. At Rimini Street, we've helped thousands of businesses and government entities do exactly that. We do that with our unified software services. And we are vendor and technology agnostic. Every client has a smart path to success, and we just help them get there. So my thanks to Duncan Jones from Forrester, and to our viewers. I hope this was an informative session that did kindle some new ideas for you. Let us know how we can help.